Hi, this is Charlie with Boxing Focus. And Kovalev and Pascal again. So in my last video, I said that really I haven't made my mind up. And truth be told, I'm really not comfortable making a pick in this fight. But since that sitting on the fence would be the the coward's way out, I'm gonna go one way. I may even change my mind as I'm recording the video. So. Kovalev is obviously, he's got a very good record, 26 victories, 23 knockouts. Does have a draw on his record. I don't even know, I haven't even bothered to look to see if that was like some kind of clash of heads or something in a second round or some kind of early decision. The thing about Kovalev's record is, when you look down the list of guys that he's fought, nobody's extended him, which means there's a lot of unanswered questions. And people have dropped him. He's walked onto punches early in fights. He's been on the canvas a few times. But even in the Hopkins fight, which is the only 12-round fight he's been in, he's just not had to show any kind of stamina in that fight. That fight was fought at an old man's walking pace. And in some ways, it was a little bit disappointing in that Kovalev just kind of coasted through the first 11 rounds and then turned it up in the 12th. Why didn't he turn it up in the 6th or 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th or 11th? Why didn't he actually force Hopkins into a bit of a brawl and really take advantage of it? And yeah, it might be boxing smart, but I think he showed Hopkins far too much respect, especially after he dropped him. I think it was obvious that Hopkins was feeling really old in the ring and feeling small. And people forget, Hopkins was a career middleweight. He's not a big guy. He's not really a light heavyweight. He just doesn't want to cut weight anymore, really, because it's hard work cutting weight down to 160. That's 15 pounds, over a stone. Pascal is a fully fledged light heavyweight. He has to cut weight to make 175. He's a lot bigger than Bernard Hopkins. He's also physically stronger and a lot more imposing and faster too. He's a lot more athletic. And he's mixed it with a very high level. You look at the guys that Pascal's been in with. He's been fighting top fighters for much longer than Kovalev has. And really, Kovalev's best opponent is actually Bernard Hopkins. Beyond that, Nathan Cleverly? That was such a one-sided fight, fought so stupidly by Cleverly. And it means there's actually a lot of questions over Kovalev that really haven't been answered. And whilst you might argue, yeah, he's answered the questions that have been put to him emphatically in general, I actually, in retrospect, I'm not that massively impressed by his win over Hopkins. And it might sound strange because I actually picked Hopkins to win that fight, but I was just caught up in the fact that I'm a big Hopkins fan. And wasn't really looking at it objectively. Now, looking at it objectively, the guy was old, very old. And whilst we perhaps couldn't have foreseen quite how much he would have declined going into that fight, he just physically wasn't in it. And yet, Kovalev didn't really take advantage of that. Now, Pascal is going to really, really come at Kovalev in different explosive ways that are going to make him very uncomfortable, and this is going to be a hard fight. Pascal is very experienced in hard fights. The Froch fight, for example, and that was down at super middleweight. That was a complete war, a very good fight. Pascal acquitted himself very well despite coming out on the losing end of the decision, and then he moved up to light heavy, and he handed the first defeat to Diakanu, he handed the first defeat to Chad Dawson. Okay, he drew and then lost with Bernard Hopkins, but I think that was probably the beginning of the end of the Bernard Hopkins era. I don't think he quite showed up as much to subsequent fights. And there's just something about the Pascal's experience. He's also got Memo Heredia in his corner as well. That guy's just shady as hell. not that I'm insinuating that Pascal might be on anything, but I mean that whole drug testing thing seems to have gone out the window a little bit. On both sides, might I add. I'm not comfortable picking against Pascal, even though I'm not comfortable picking against Kovalev either. I just seem to, just based on a combination of experience and the fact that he's just the way he fights can be a bit awkward. Pascal's not going to stand in front of Kovalev and let Kovalev tee off on him. He's either going to be coming at Kovalev, backing him up, throwing clusters of shots, or he's going to be moving, and he moves quickly. He moves well on his feet. Pascal is a little bit. At times he looks clumsy, but at other times, he's just a very tricky fighter to come up against. I just think that there's it's going to be tricky for Kovalev because he's not got the experience of handling a guy like Pascal in fights before. He's not really been extended, and he's going to have to be learning on the spot whilst the fight's unfolding. And everybody's saying that Pascal fades late in fights. I think it's true that Pascal does appear to have stamina problems, but I honestly believe that some of it comes down to, it's not his physical conditioning. I think it's kind of more like nervous energy. The Bernard Hopkins fights, there was so much expected of him. And he just, I think the occasion got to him both times. And even in the Chad Dawson fight, I just think the excitement of the fact that he was winning just kind of overcame him. Because Chad Dawson was the monster at light heavyweight. People thought he was almost unbeatable, and Pascal came along and beat him. So I don't think we're going to see those problems from Pascal at this point in his career. I think he's probably learned to get that kind of stuff under control. He's got a lot of good advice going on in his corner these days. He's one of the few fighters to have remained with his original trainer, even though he's lost a couple of times. He's not turned around and said, obviously things are going wrong. Instead of casting aside his original team, he's added to it. He's brought in Roy Jones Jr. He's moved his camp to different places. And I guess a lot of respect from me, personally. I'm not a big fan of these guys who just throw their trainers under a bus. I think there's a lot more to learn in the sport than that. And you don't have to switch trainers in order to get new ideas in your camp. I mean, obviously not all corners are the best corners in the world, but I think Pascal's got a particular set of talents, and his team know how to get the best out of him for those. So we will. I think Pascal's going to edge it. I'm going to go with Jean Pascal to hand Kovalev his first defeat. Kovalev's probably going to make me eat my words again. Just like he did last time against Hopkins. But I think I'm being a bit more objective about this one. I'm not caught up in the magnitude of the potential accomplishment. I mean, if Hopkins had beaten Kovalev, at 50 years old nearly, it would have just been absolutely tremendous and unrealistic as it turned out. Pascal is in his prime. He's strong, he's athletic, and he's mobile, and he's explosive. I expect him to put Kovalev down once or twice, maybe. I also expect Kovalev to perhaps score a knockdown, and I think the knockdowns are going to be flash knockdowns, and the fight's going to go the distance. This is Charlie with Boxing Focus. Let me know what your thoughts are on this fight.